what is happening on the floor right now. And with the full text of the bill, only released overnight, do your Senate colleagues really know what's in it?
That would be, it is 900 plus pages, so don't think so. But what we do know from some immediate analysis, which Senator Schumer was just discussing on the floor, it actually has more Medicaid cuts. Yet so many of our colleagues, Senator Hawley has said that it's immoral to cut Medicaid and to throw 16 million people off of their health care. Well, this has more Medicaid cuts, and it adds to the debt of a grand old amount of $4 trillion. This is bad for the American people. It is horrendous when it comes for helping the wealthiest and then trying to do everything to give them more tax cuts and hurt everyone else. And analysis after analysis have shown that. So this is what I consider a big, beautiful betrayal. Food assistance cut, people thrown off their health care, and of course adding $1 trillion of debt, which is going to make hard to get mortgages. All kinds of things are problematic with this bill.
Are your colleagues on the other side of the aisle paying any attention to the public sentiment around this? You've just said there are more cuts in Medicaid than that which they receive from the House. It's going in the wrong direction, it seems.
Well, it is, and you just even one of your competitors, Fox News poll, showed that 60% of people hate this bill.
MAGA hypocrisy never surprises me, but it always disgusts me. I'm not shocked that Donald Trump is breaking every single promise he made on the campaign trail about bringing down costs or abandoning the very working class voters he claims to represent. I'm not shocked, but I am disgusted that he's throwing millions of people off of their health care so his billionaire buddies can get a bigger tax cut. And I'm not the only one who's disgusted because a Republican senator was caught on camera trashing this bill, trashing Trump, and then did the unthinkable. After, in a shocking moment, we are going to get into it all and call out this hypocrisy. But first, we have to start with the Democrats, who are fighting back in the Senate against it, and we can see them ripping this bill to shreds right here.
I think what pisses me off the most about this bill is that nobody's asking for it.
Yep. Yeah, right.
There's no demand in the country to throw 10, 12, 15 million people off their health care in order to finance a tax cut for corporations and the wealthy. There is a demand in this country for a lot of stuff.
Right.
I don't mean anybody who's asking for this bill.
You're obviously not talking to the billionaires because there is real demand. The donor class feels like they bought this election fair and square, and now is the time for payoff.
What pisses me off the most about this is that they're out there saying, oh no, this is like we're helping middle class Americans, we're helping lift up families, we're lowering your costs, when actually just follow the money. They are doing exactly the opposite of that. They are helping the billionaires and the biggest corporations, and who pays?
Well, it's bad enough they're taking food away from hungry families, but because those so-called savings won't pay for the tax cuts for these really rich people, no, they've got to borrow the money.
Put it on the credit
they've
card.
Got to put it on the credit card. They've got to raise our deficit and our debt by trillions. They've got to take money from our kids for this tax cut for themselves.
They know what they're doing. Behind closed doors, when they have these secret meetings with each other, they are talking about how many people they're going to throw off of healthcare. Whereas in the public, it's no, it's just about Medicaid inefficiencies, cutting waste and abuse. But behind closed doors, they're literally handing paper to each other, in which they're talking about, we totally know that we're throwing millions of people out there.
So let's do it fast. Let's do it in the middle of the night, and let's do it with no hearings, no public data, no discussion of this, and let's not talk about it.
Nobody wants this bill. All of the polling that we've seen, even from the Fox propaganda outlet, shows that overwhelmingly Americans hate this agenda, which really makes my blood boil, because we tried to tell you what it was, and because Donald Trump knows that everyone hates the bill that he is putting forth, the agenda that he has. He's trying to lie about it, and unsurprisingly, blame Democrats. He's blaming Democrats. So before we can get into that Republican telling the truth about Donald Trump's agenda, unfortunately, we have to hear the lies Trump is trying to spin.
They have Trump derangement syndrome at levels never seen before. And instead of voting for a tax cut, they're voting for a tax increase of 68%. They're voting to destroy Social Security, destroy Medicare, and destroy Medicaid. And we're voting to make them perfect and to make them better, make them stronger and better. They're going to destroy Medicaid, and they're going to destroy Medicare, and Social Security will follow. If you vote for the Democrats, you're dead on those three things.
So this is what Donald Trump wants you to believe. He wants you to believe that somehow a bill cutting almost $1 trillion in Medicaid, throwing millions of Americans off of their health care and doing more damage as that horrible effect brings down hospitals and other critical health care infrastructure. He wants you to think it's Democrats, right? That's what he wants you to think of. He's the savior of Medicaid, but one Republican made it very clear that that's not true, trashing this bill. And that was Josh Hawley. Now, I want to take a look at what he had to say, but what he did after is what completely disgusts me.
I mean, we can't be cutting health care for working people and for poor people in order to constantly give special tax treatment to corporations and other entities. And we've delayed that in this bill. But it will, unless we take further changes or take further steps, it will happen in future years. And I'm opposed to this. If we're going to be a working class party, we've got to protect working people. And the Medicaid stuff in here, I think is bad. I think we've delayed the worst of it. And in the short term, for my state, it's going to be fine. But on a going forward basis, we cannot go on like this. I think the party has a lot of thinking to do.
With all of that in mind, with Josh Hawley saying that it would be a tragedy for the Republican Party, which does not represent working class voters, to turn their backs on them, to throw people off their health care, to do this damage that other Republican senators said would hurt generations of Americans. What did Josh Hawley decide to do? He decided to vote for the bill. Yes. Josh Hawley is now voting for Donald Trump's agenda after trashing it, after admitting that Donald Trump was cutting. Medicaid Trump won't say that. Trump won't even say that, oh, well, we're going to trim it. We're going to make some improvements. He'll just blatantly lie, and Josh Hawley understands those lies. He's still voting for it now. If that's not hypocrisy, I don't know what is. If you're surprised you haven't been paying attention to the last 10 years, if you're disgusted, I feel you. It is gross. But there's a reason why Republicans feel so comfortable in this bill cutting Medicaid, and Senator Chris Murphy detailed exactly why.
So just about an hour ago, news broke that this Republican bill is going to include a $15 billion slush fund for rural hospitals. Okay, now why is that? It's because they know what's going to happen when they pass this bill. They know that it's not just that 15 million people are going to lose their health care. There are going to be hospitals and health care clinics and mental health addiction centers that are going to close their doors. So this bill doesn't just impact you if you lose your health care. This bill impacts you even if you keep your health care, even if you keep your Medicaid. Because when you withdraw $800 billion from the Medicaid system, the system starts to collapse. And so what they're doing now is they're going to set up a slush fund to be able to keep their hospitals open, right? To make sure that in the states of those senators and representatives who voted for this bill, maybe they'll be able to keep the services going. But if you're in a blue state or a purple state, good luck. because that slush fund, it isn't coming to you.
So MAGA, unsurprisingly, is making sure that they cover their ass. As you lose your health care, they're setting up a little side fund to make sure that they're going to be all good. And it's just for red states, by the way. No surprise there. The people who most desperately need Medicaid funding, this cut disproportionately will affect red states. We know that to be true. These aren't the donor states of California and New York. Of course, that Gavin Newsom term. They need these funds, and they're going to get them while the rest of us suffer. That's the plan being put in place right now. Great. The guy who talked about weaponization of government is trying to take health care away from people. Only in blue states. What a surprise. And it doesn't stop there. It only gets worse, as you can expect. And Senator Amy Klobuchar broke some of that down right here.
They want to be able to afford a mortgage, and everything about this bill makes their costs go up. It is completely polar opposite of what people want.
And then we just heard from my colleague Sahil that Tom Tillis is a no on the procedural vote, no on an official bill. So do you think there are enough defectors to kill this bill?
You know, they seem to, in the end, always rubber stamp Donald Trump, time and time again. This is their moment to stand up. All we need is 4 of them to stand up. 4 Republicans need to stand up and listen to their constituents, and then they can start over, or they can take some of this and stop this huge increase to the debt, which is just completely opposite of what we should be doing. Why? Just to fund a bunch of tax cuts for the wealthy so that people can get $400,000 tax cuts who are millionaires, and the rest of everyone else is left on the cutting room floor.
That Fox News poll you cited, again, Fox News. Are Republicans thinking ahead to the political consequences, and what is the strategy for Democrats on this?
First of all, their strategy, Republican strategy, seems to be just do everything the president wants them to do. Our strategy is to stand up for the American people. So you are going to see us push votes to try to change this, to try to make it better. We don't believe in the end it will be anything near what we would want, but we're going to say to them, okay, if you want to help people with food assistance in rural communities, if you don't want to close down rural hospitals, then here's your chance. Vote with us. So we will be putting a number of amendments out on the floor, which is our right, to make them vote on them, because this is one of our opportunities where we can do this and hold them accountable for this bill, because even at this point, they could change this bill.
So what are you hearing from your constituents about this bill? I'm curious. I mean, you referenced Senator Schumer, who said, quote, Americans hate this bill. You've said Americans hate this bill. Is that what you're hearing from your constituents? And I'm curious what their biggest concern is.
Yes, and I would say one of the biggest concerns in my state, which is, of course, mourning the loss of Melissa and Mark Hortman today with that beautiful ceremony based in such their faith and the faith in public service. What our state is looking at is, wait a minute, how about rural hospitals? It will close dozens of rural hospitals, 300 total across the United States, because of both Medicaid cuts and Medicare cuts. The debt in this proposal is so huge that it actually triggers Medicare cuts that will lead to the closure of rural hospitals. They are also concerned with grocery prices going up, about interest rates going up, which is what we are seeing now when you look at the long term with a bill that adds literally $1 trillion in interest.
As we try to find something that everybody could agree upon, if Republicans were not threatening to strip Medicaid, SNAP funding and the like, would you support extending the Trump tax cuts?
I have supported extending the ones that help regular people, those making under $400,000 a year. If they would look at that, and they would just do that, and they wouldn't give all the tax cuts to the wealthy, you'd save $2 trillion of the $3-4 trillion that they're adding in debt right there. Or you could put it in a debt reduction fund. You could say, okay, we're going to take this trillion and we're going to put it in debt reduction. Nothing like that are they doing. They are adding more tax cuts for the wealthiest. I personally would bring up the corporate tax rate, even if you did 4 points, 5 points, put it somewhere in the middle of where it once was and where it is now. Each point you go up is $150 billion in 10 years.
This bill is an abomination, and Josh Hawley is a disgrace for being able to understand and admit that he admitted it. He knows it is, and still go forward in voting for it. What is wrong with these people? They just truly don't seem to care. They don't understand what the point of public service is. By the way, it's to serve the public, but they don't know that there's still time left to fight back against this. We are certainly going to be covering it all on this show. Thanks for watching this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.